My man, never get caught up in no crime. My man, get caught up with family time.
So about that time when we get into our talking points commentary for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, April 15th, 2024. Let's do that.
It's a song of rustling in the leaves of the trees. Spirit of the Lord has come down on the earth. The church that seems to slumber has now risen from its knees. My bones are responding to the fruits of new birth. And this is now one time for declaration. The words will go to all men everywhere. The church is there for the healing of the nation. Before the day of Jesus, whatever that gives to me, I speak. I am the one.
Ladies and gentlemen, by way of our talking points commentary this evening, we have a few things. Let's just to speak in your hearing. And the first one of them is that our understanding is that Jonathan Larry was supposed to have a bail hearing. I think that began last week, if I am not mistaken. And that I do not know what the status is, if it's completed in the court, but we want to share some thoughts on that with you. Now, the law does provide, ladies and gentlemen, that someone who has been accused, who have been charged even with a crime, must be given the opportunity to prove their innocence. So you hear the term, you are innocent until proven guilty. So you hear that term. So that is quite in order. Once upon a time in our nation, once you committed murder, or at least you were charged for that, if my memory serves me right, there was no bail offered. Laws have been revised over the years to ensure that even accused people have a right to a hearing. Okay, even accused people have a right to a hearing, and that's what the law is. Now, I understand, and I totally sympathize with and understand the plight, especially of the people of Soufriere, Scott's Head, that this gentleman had been a threat to them and anybody who went on that property or traversed the public road to that property. And when you think about it, the gentleman must have been very foolhardy. Even after the matter was taken to court and he lost, he kept on blocking people. And that would mean, to me, ladies and gentlemen, he felt that he had some entitlement so that he could violate the law, even if the matter did go to court and he lost. Now, that speaks of another area that happens in Dominica that somehow we get silent on. Depend on who you are, depend on what lines you have, depend on what your affiliation with governing authorities. Some people just feel that they're large and they are above the law. Okay, and so he did that. However, as far as the murder of Daniel Langlo and his common law wife is concerned, the justice, the wheels of justice, must take its course. Okay, and I'm sure the people of Soufriere can put forward a case, a strong case as well, why bail must not be given, because that is also within the law. You're within your purview to do, to present a matter to the prosecution to say this is where we are. We are afraid for our lives if this guy is out. And if my understanding, and I do not know how true that is, if my understanding of this matter is correct, that the gentleman was captured on the other side of the island, apparently with the intention intention of leaving the island through an illegal port, that can always happen. Okay, and money talks, and the gentleman, have access to money. The sad thing is, he have access to our money, and we are the people paying the brunt of it. The other person didn't have access to our money; they used their money to their business. But this gentleman have access to our money, and that's why we believe that his association with those who would approve him as a peddler or seller or a trader, whatever you want to call it, or a battering of our passports, you have to have a relationship with Mr. Skerritt for you to be able to sell the passport. All of us know that. Okay, according to the little boy in the Calypso, is only one man that know he not broke. Only one man. Everybody knows that except one man. We understand that. Okay, so I understand all the vagaries involved in that, and you have a right, ladies and gentlemen, to make your case that this gentleman could be a threat to the society, one, and two, he would certainly be a flight risk given the information that I understand. Okay, so let's hope that this thing turns out well, and we also know in Dominica that the wheels of justice for some people takes time to turn, and sometimes never turn, depend on where you are, and some people get out, just get out of the whole justice wheel. Let's see what happens this time. Okay. The second thing I want to share with you is that if my memory serves me right, we should have had an announcement today with regard to electoral reform from the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Roosevelt Skerritt. I wasn't expecting it, but after he gave us so many untruths, Monty, he could surprise us one time, and tell us the truth this time. Now, if you assess what he has told us, it means that there's no way, by his own words, that the electoral reform wheel will turn. How do you know that, Pastor Randy? I'll tell you how. Well, today's the 15th of April. He promised that this thing would have been out in the public, would know what was going to Parliament. And by the time they do the budget would prepare the funding, the necessary funding for the reform. But the budget is supposed to be, well, the end of the financial year is June 30th, which is 45 days from today. So make the maths. Okay, just make the maths. The sad thing about that is, we keep sitting down and taking that. This thing has been out since 2009. This is 2024. And we've been hearing about electoral reform, and somebody has been kicking down the can, and don't want anybody else to talk about it, as though it must be his thing and his reform because it's his country and his backyard and his child and everything is his. So the rest of the people must shut up. One of those days, I'm sure some people wouldn't shut up. And when you see that, people say you're inciting violence, but all I'm saying to you, all of you, is what you sow, you go reap. And if you plant some things, understand that what you get is not what you plant. What you get is dozens of what you plant. So if you plant one seed, you don't expect one seed in the harvest. You expect a bag of whatever you plant. That is what you will get, okay? Don't you ever forget that. Keep that in your mind. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, I need to share with you this, that every one of us, every person who consider themselves a bona fide Dominican must evaluate who you are, evaluate where you are, evaluate your standing in the nation, and make certain decisions. Many of you are out there, and your businesses are not doing well, but you're quiet. You have lost jobs and your job is not doing well and you're quiet. Your loans are in arrears and you're quiet. Your trucks are not working and you're quiet. Your farming produce is not selling and you're quiet. You are grinding through your teeth to send your children to school, but you're quiet. Your children got scholarships to go to university, and you have unexpectedly now you have had to go to the banks and send money to them, but you're still quiet. And you're going to remain quiet for a long time because you're hoping that somebody somewhere is going to answer your plea eventually. I've got news for you. The the old song says, every day you take the bucket to the well. One day the bucket bottom must fall out. Well, listen to that. The bucket bottom falling out. So the largesse is beginning to empty, and all you still quiet. One of those days, all you will speak. And I'm hoping that that'll be soon so I can stop speaking. All I'm trying to do is encourage you to speak for yourself. Come on, coffee, according to Felix Anderson. Talk, brother. Talk, partner. Some of you need to do at least talk, and some of you need to do more than talk. Because many of you, your circumstances are not easy. But like the old patois proverb says, uka pili washan pilon. And some of you, you're tired pili washan pilon. You can't pili wash anymore because it's not turning to anything. I wish you Godspeed as you keep quiet, hoping that your quietness will bring you some reward. Because like the former minister says, have patience. Some of you have been having patience for 15 years. I heard the prime minister said some time ago, and I'm quoting him, that he knows that some people have not been appointed for 20 years. And he has been the prime minister for 22 years. And the people still not appointed. And now he's saying to them he will do something about it. You have patience still. Keep having patience. I will pray that you will have more patience. But I also, everybody who asks me to pray for them for patience, I tell them the Bible is clear. Patience is not something we pray for. Once you pray for patience, you get trouble. And none of you want trouble. Because it's trouble that'll give you patience. Ladies and gentlemen, every one of you in my audience today need to rise up for all the things that you think needs to be corrected that are not being corrected. Because if you don't, you will suffer. Stop expecting everybody else to rise up for you. Talking Points commentary for tonight, April 15, 2024.
We want to glorify the King. Prepared by God and ready for war. Granting of the Spirit is the word of command. We rise a mighty army at the bidding of the Lord. The devil sees and fears, for his time is at hand. Oh, children of the Lord, hear a commission. We should love and serve the Lord as one. The Spirit would be hindered by division. It would look that Jesus had it on. My tongue will be the pen of a ready writer. And what the Father gives to me, I'll speak. I only want to be His friend. I only want to glorify Him. My tongue will be the pen of a ready writer. And what the Father gives to me, I'll speak. I only want to be.
A very good evening to you, my friend Jack. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing wonderfully well, bless the Lord. And a very good evening to you, a very good evening to Pastor Matthew, and to all our listeners, wherever you may be, to all my folks, my fans in the diaspora, those in Texas and Atlanta, Georgia, and in Tampa, Florida. Those of you in the UK, and I want to say a very good evening to you, Ivan there, and Ella in New York. I want to say good evening to Sister Lee. A very good evening to you, Gertrude. I know whether you're up or down, but I'm saying good evening to you. Hope you're having a wonderful time. And to all the folks, my wife and those other Eagle-ites, people from Grand Bay, Bellevue, Tetmore, wherever you may be at this evening. A very good evening to you. We want to welcome you to our program tonight. And as usual, I always say thank you very much to those of you who support our charity regularly, to Bernard in Georgia, and to all the folks who continuously, whether you send a barrel or a pallet or whatever you send to support the charity, we do the best and God does the rest. And that's where we are. So tonight again, to all the local businesses who support us, thank you very much. We appreciate every discount, every contribution that you make. Our responsibility to make sure, which is the hardest task, it falls in the right hand, that the right people receive the thing they do. And I get excited when that happens because I have an account to give to my father every single day. So have a good night, kick back and relax with us and listen to the program.
Thank you very much, Pastor Jack. Pastor Matthew is connected with us tonight. He's not in studio, but he's connected with us tonight. A very good evening to you, Pastor Matthew. You are muted, Pastor Matthew. You are muted. Yes, now.
Pleasant. Good evening to you, and of course, Pastor Randy and my friend, Pastor Jack, and of course, those of you who are connected in Dominica, the Caribbean, and by extension the world. A special good evening to all of you.
Well, I'm glad that you are connected with us, Matthew. I hope you are not somewhere in Jerusalem now, because there was some things coming down on that nation a couple of nights ago.
Well, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I'm of course closer to Jerusalem than I'm closer to home.
But it should not be in Iran either.
Yeah, I'm closer there than I'm home, and maybe and I'm thankful to the Lord for, of course, the opportunity to be alive and well. And I know that just listening to the news or what's happening around the world, I've been looking and trying to sort of make some sense out of everything. And I know there's so much happening. There's so much as I look and compare what the Word of God has been teaching us, and I know that's exactly why we've literally termed our program Kingdom Connection, and having known and understand and recognize all what we face and are facing, how much we can look into the Word and sort of do a comparative analysis with what's happening and give direction to our people. And for those of you listening, it's always a joy. Those of you continue to send your thoughts. How much you do appreciate us on Kingdom Connection is always a joy. And sometimes we may not always be there in physical body, and but I tell you, it's always a program that I look forward to. I always believe in ensuring that whatever we do, we connect, in ensuring that we speak the truth. We are honest about what we do, and we connect with people one-on-one in what I believe must be said and done. Because at the end of it all, we have, like I've always said, one life to live, and time is given to us but once. And that opportunity, as it unfolds, every single day that you wake up in the morning, there is consternation in hell that, boy, Jack is alive again. And guess what? He must represent God in the way that God has called him to. And that's what we're given. And that opportunity should never be taken away from us. And I'm always so thankful to represent God the way that I can. And I'm also very thankful also, Pastor Randy and Jack, to convey remarks from my family. And, it's always a joy to be able to connect with them at different times. And when I am with them in bodily, physical form, it's even better. I get into saving mode.
Yeah.
Well, I do not want Jack to offer you any other words but that. Okay.
I shall comply.
let's leave it as just that. Okay, let's leave it as just that.
Yes.
Pastor Matthew, tonight we decided to start a new topic, and I'm hoping we can do that this evening. Somebody's persistent on the phone there. Let me see who that is on the line before we get to that. Good evening on the telephone. You are connected.
Yes, Pastor. Good evening to you, Pastor. I didn't hear the entirety of your monologue. I don't know whether my question pertained to part of your monologue, but I wanted to clarify something, even for my personal hearing. I listened to a program on the accolades of Mr. Ozzie Lewis last week, Thursday. Was there any recent program of yours giving accolades to Mr. Ozzie Lewis recently?
No,
Or any recent Mondays?
no. That
Okay,
was
so
a
what I
repeat.
heard last
That was
week
a repeat of the Kudos to Our Heroes program.
And that was how many years ago? Or
That must have been sometime last year, I think. I don't remember the exact date, quite frankly.
Okay, just for my personal interest.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No problems. No problems.
All right.
All right, good. All right, so that tonight we wanted to start a new subject. We were talking for the last few months on the question of selective justice, and people have met me and spoke quite some about it and the fact that they have learned so much about the whole question of selective justice. Tonight we want to begin to open up and maybe introduce what is another thorny subject, Matthew. A thorny subject because it is quite misunderstood, Jack. And I want us to begin to have a clear understanding of that. Now, as I introduce that, and I'm probably going to ask Matthew to give you the bulk of the introduction in a while, but I remember the days when this Jack that is sitting across the table from me was the superintendent or the president of the Gospel Mission Assemblies of Dominica. And this Jack, I considered him then my boss because I was his secretary, Matthew.
Right.
So I was supposed to do what the president wants. Is that how it functions? That's how I thought it functioned. But that president had gotten to a place where either he had gained confidence, trust, whatever the word is, in my work, that whereas I would be doing what the secretary's work is supposed to be, I would pass him the secretary's work, and his response would be, "No, let's go ahead and do that. That's good. Go ahead and do that." Now, I didn't have power to go ahead and do that. I had power to design this thing, right, Matthew?
Right.
But I didn't have the authority to execute it until my boss said, "Go ahead and do that." Now, I want you to give us, from your perspective, Matthew, some maybe definition or clarity,
Right.
the difference between the authority and power and leadership. Those three words, sometimes I think we mess them up terribly.
Right. And yes, we do. And I'm certainly sure what I will try to do more or less is as we go, I can tell you I like the way that you've introduced the subject, Pastor Randy, because there is so much to talk about in relation to authority, power, and the whole concept here of leadership. It's amazing how you've gone, just try to tear it apart. And I can tell you, I can already begin to sense there is going to be a whole lot to take from this as we move along. And as we go along this evening, and I'm certainly sure for other Mondays, in a theoretical way, we will explain and expound on different definitions in relation to what should be looked at. on that perspective. But I want to this evening, as you've asked me to just maybe share a little bit here in the whole concept of power and authority. And I know for those listening, scholars, biblical scholars, would immediately come up with words, for example, such as dunamis and exousia, as if my memory serves me right, the whole words used for one for power and one for authority, and one having to do with the whole concept of that which is about to be done and that which has been established in someone that may not yet be done, but at the same time is inherent in an individual, which is authority. It's almost like saying, if I say to my boy, take the car, and and go down the road. He's 12 years old. I've given him power, but in essence, he knows that he doesn't have the authority to drive on the road, because he doesn't have that authority to do it, because legally he's going to be he's going to be taken down for that. There, but in the whole concept here of leadership, power, authority. One of the things I want to I want to open up this evening as we begin to talk about this, because and Pastor Randy is very, very clear on this. This is a subject that I believe is one that is very, very shaky, a subject that a lot of people don't like to talk about. Is what is referred to as a hot potato for many people. And the whole concept here is, as we begin to think about it, power in essence, and just off the bat, as you're thinking, is having people embody our vision, whereas leadership, on the other hand, is supporting others in embodying their vision.
Would you repeat that, Matthew?
No. Power is having people embody our vision. In other words, and I want to break it down, because I could say a lot here in terms of its definition, Randy, theoretically, but I want to move a little away from its theoretical aspect here, and so that people understand what must be done, what is referred to when we talk about power and the whole concept of leadership here. The thing is, power is having people embody our vision. So I have something that I want to achieve, and it doesn't matter whether it is something that you agree with or you don't agree with. The thing is, I need to have you embody my vision. Whereas leadership, on the other hand, is playing a supportive role, in the sense that it is wanting or putting itself in a position to supporting another person or individuals in embodying their vision. And so it is often said that that an inherent part of renewing organization is that leaders work with people and help them in their own work to create or bring out their vision into greatness. Okay, and so as a result of that, it's something that we get to the place where we begin to realize it is not just about me achieving what I want to achieve. It is something that is already established, but I need to help someone to get to the level where they need to. And so empowerment, in one sense of the word, for a lot of people around us, is giving away power, whereas management, on the other hand, is holding on to power and control.
All right. Let me have you chime in right there, Jack.
Maybe I should start on that page. This is a topic that has always stirred me emotionally, because of I know that song that said, I did it my way. And one of the lines of the song says, regrets I have a few. And I heard you compliment me for about being in these seats of power. And I have to be open into the world and to all my listeners, my friends, my wife. If I knew what I knew now, many of the places that I was ushered, coaxed, flattered into power, I would never take it. I would never have sat on, although I felt, or maybe say plain, I had no formal training before I got into the places of power. I want to mention people I ran with, like Thomas Slater. I was a little younger than most of them. Davy Slater, Clarence Christian, Colbert Pinard, Juliana Proctor, Catherine Fountain. All those people were the elite official. And then I, growing up as a lost child, I just felt, let me run with these people. I will learn a few things. And I got myself in seats of power. I got myself to be president and then vice president and then secretary and all kind of positions that I started. But as I grew older, and I'm saying that with a lot of emotion, that I evaluate even my position as pastor. I was not voted as a, but yes, at the beginning, but I felt what I learned later that I did the right thing. But yet, if I knew what I knew then, I wouldn't have accepted because I was ushered into pastoring that they said, well, you have to have a successor. And you know, the man I succeeded as the president of the mission or the 14 churches had run things for 50 years. And then here was a 20-something year old boy coming and succeed him. And I'm still saying, if I knew, because power can be very flattering and can be addictive. I didn't know none of these things when I was put into seats of power. And if I have to be honest to my children who are my greatest cheerleaders and admirers for my work, I would have said, no, I don't want to go because I would have known. And let me say also, from what you said, in all honesty, you were, and you know, I never flatter. If I have one person I will not flatter is you. I'll tell you how it is. You have been one of the best supporters I've had in life. And people hear you say I was your boss, but I wish it was the other way wrong. People see you,
and you're not saying that because you're fearful of him.
he knows I'm under afraid. He knows that. My eyes bigger. So this guy here was excellent in what he did. And many times, if I said no without honesty before God, as I've seen him on that day, that I wish it was the other way wrong. That and you learn from my sorte how to be smart. You know, you learn. People see you in leadership because you are a good follower. I had not a headache when you were my secretary. I never saw you as the secretary that wrote notes. I saw you as my assistant. That this is the guy who's going to make me shine. And you did. So it never, if you become the prime minister of Dominica, I think in the Commonwealth of Dominica, you are one of the most qualified person, in my humble two-pence opinion, to become the prime minister of Dominica. I would not be shocked. I would sleep better.
Jack,
because
Jack, is that a campaign speech, Jack?
Pastor Randy.
I have promised I will break the law and go on a political platform, and I will ask all my children to come down for us to campaign for you. I have made a promise. I will ask my children to leave the United States and come and campaign for you. I will break the law because now no religion can do me anything. So I will go on the political campaign and campaign because I don't have a superintendent. But let me see what I'm saying.
Look, Matthew, want to jail you.
I want to say something here because
not my boss.
Yeah, I think Pastor Jack is really making a statement. I think borderline with which I believe is a very true statement, often said maybe in the great schools of leadership. And having said what you're saying now, Pastor Jack, and listening to what Pastor Randy said earlier on, when he said the way that he operated, having to become your secretary, and now you're saying you had absolutely no problem because what he did made you shine. Now we know that in the schools of leadership that we're told that every good leader must take power away from him or herself.
Mm-hmm.
Every good leader, and what he does or what she does is she does that by transferring that power to those that they're leading. And so unless we're willing to take away power from ourselves and transfer it to the people that we're leading, we are in essence defining ourselves as poor leaders.
Yeah. But in all honesty, without flattery, I would tell you that I learned very early some of the things. I educated myself along the way in seminars, conferences, everywhere. Anyway, I could get some education because I realized how inequipped I was when I began to lead an organization bigger than myself. I'd always learned not to sign, and from my lawyer, not to sign any document that I did not read. And now I'm making a confession. I think if I've not made that confession before, I'm making it. Randy was the only person I trusted that much. And sometimes I pretended I read the letters that he gave me. And he told me, well, I wrote that. And I said, oh, give it to me. And I pretend I look at the page and I turn it very quickly. He should have picked up that I cannot read that fast. And I would just sign the letter because I had the confidence that whatever he had written was consistent with what we decided. And I never had a regret. I never got into trouble. And every time I would have a chance again to go over what he did or to see the result of what he did, it always came out better than I thought. You know, I remember Randy and I writing the Constitution, trying to execute the Constitution of the mission, the entire mission. And these were the days. These were the days when my confidence grew in this guy, that he was not messing me up. I can remember he and I learned there was a new word in the dictionary called autonomous. and sometimes I don't think I could spell it before I said it. You know, and we battled with the lawyer over and over, and we had more meetings than the House of Assembly over that statement that we couldn't get into the Constitution. And he was there with me every step of the way with Alex Lawrence. And the places that we went to and travel internationally, not knowing that, okay, he has my back. So today, let me say that, maybe it's an opportunity for him to say that. If Randy is in any form of leadership, it doesn't bother me because he has been an excellent, and all of us in the mission, you may not like the person Randy, but you cannot deny the excellence and the professionalism that comes with that package. So sometimes even when people don't like him, they admire and respect what he brings forth. So I was the first beneficiary of that aspect of Randy's life. So I'm saying tonight, before I say more on the topic, Jack Latham, if I knew all what power entailed, I wouldn't be attracted by it. But I was young. And I found out later that the Bible had warned you not to put me in position of power if I was very young, because I would be
Jack, let's take a call and then we get back to that. Good evening on the telephone. You're connected.
Oh my God. Prime Minister Randy Rodney, tout famille m'a take a sort lot. 3/4 of my relatives in America, you know. Tout moun take a descent.
All mine there.
All tout.
Yes.
Prime Minister Salah.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a campaign platform.
No. But we're talking about power. You know,
No,
I
Pastor.
wouldn't hesitate to close to power.
Hold on. So let us eliminate that, right? This is not a campaign platform.
No,
and nobody.
I am wearing a great
and
t-shirt,
nobody
you know?
in Dominica
So it's
goes
not-
up for prime minister.
Right.
Okay.
Nobody.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Now let's get back to that.
No.
Okay, now let's get back. Hold on a while before you cut in there, Matthew. Jack, one of the things that took me from a very young age was that I had a fascination for leadership.
Mhm.
When I tell a fascination, a real fascination. So I paid attention to anybody I considered a leader. I read the books of Che Guevara and the Communist Revolution.
I did.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
I read those books. I read the literature of the Muslims. Right. I looked at Caribbean leadership.
Yeah.
Right. I paid particular attention to the various styles of leadership. I listened. Right. And I listened to people who I considered real leaders in Dominica. It didn't matter. It was not now when people try to tell you, don't listen to that one, listen to that. I paid attention to every single leader. So when House of Assembly was going on and the independent candidate Conrad Cyrus was in the House of Parliament, I listened to everybody. Okay. Now, what was I listening for? Sometimes I listened for oratory. So I listened to Oliver James Serafin and Michael Douglas. And well, Rosie wasn't in Parliament in those early days. But then I listened to the oratory of Maurice Bishop in Grenada. Okay. I paid attention to Edward Seaga. Okay. I listened to John Compton, right? And James Mitchell and Eugenia Charles. I listen to what they're saying, why they're saying what they're saying. Let me tell you somebody who I paid close attention to. I just thought that he was really revolutionary with his utterances most times, was Ronan David. Okay, it's strange the people who I can tell you clearly I paid attention to. However, some of my leadership desires came from my days as a school teacher. And I always tell people that Mr. Francis Bruni caused me to be a school teacher. I had not even gotten my Royal GC certificates yet. I was walking the streets and he says, Dick, we have a vacancy there for a teacher. You're not interested?
That's how I got into teaching.
I said, I just want to work. He says, well, come and work. And I really appreciated that. So I learned a certain order, a certain preparation. And I understood. I did not know then what team dynamics was, but I began to understand that. Right now, because somehow, Matthew and Jack, I believe that there are some things that God prepares you for and gives you a flair for. And so it started then. And all my reading and so on. Now, mind you, I never wanted position.
There's a difference here. I never was attracted to leadership or power. I did not even understand the difference. I believe after that, I hear all you saying that some people are born leaders. I never desired to lead in anything. It just happened that I would come here and I would be among strangers who do not know me from Adam to Adam. And all of a sudden, when I go to a conference, they would ask me to make a presentation. And I discover leadership quality in me. But then I went to biblical leadership and found that I had to shape up in character. And that is what I think I am saying that to the honestly people listening to me, in helping those who are attracted to power and leadership to make certain individual introspection before you are flattered into the position or before you are attracted to the position. Because I learned the hard way, the hard lessons of being in leadership or a state of power. Because if I had known what I know now, so I'm warning you now, be very careful if you feel the desire to lead. I never did, and feel you're attracted to power. Be very careful to evaluate, because there are certain things I wish I'd written the book about, or I can write the book on. Before you get into power, before you take a position of leadership, not after, before.
You know, Jack, you keep making that statement.
Yeah.
You're using that word attracted to.
Yes.
Right.
And I want to dwell on that a little bit because Matthew, both you and Matthew said Paul is attractive.
Very.
And people generally love to get into that because of the attractiveness of Paul. What is attractive about power? Would you tell us? Both of you.
It gives you privileges that you would not have otherwise. But then it has a hidden agenda of responsibility that you never see. So it is advertised as sugar, but yet real within it is the medication for which they want the cure for you. So that is like all tablets, you see capsules. If you open the capsule, you will not swallow the tablet. So power has a way of alluring you to a place of privilege and a way of exercising superiority. You think that you're exempted from what other people are exempted, the problems and the adversity. Power will give you a place of safety and security, contrary to what real power and power from a biblical point of view. So that is the attraction, because you must understand many people are attracted to power, but they are not attracted to leadership, or they are just not leaders. What attracts them and put them in leadership is the power. So when they come into leadership, they overrule and controlled by their power. They are not leaders. They are attracted to what I'm saying, the false wood of security and privilege that power gives you. But your character before power, who you are, many of the ideas I have before power, would make you to exercise power in the right way. Then you become a leader,
Matthew.
a right biblical.
You know,
Is there anything else apart from that?
You know, I'm happy that you're saying that, Pastor Jack, now, because I'm sitting here and I'm saying, okay, great. Because my point here in what you're asking, why would people be so easily attracted to power? And what I wanted to literally say here is the deceptive aspect of power that I think a lot of people don't realize. As much as Pastor Jack is correct in terms of the privileges and the comfort that power is, will always hand out, yet still what we do not see is the end result of that attractive power that we sort of grab a hold to, because it is deceptive. The end result is going to take us down to something that we never ever thought would have happened. And some people might be listening to us and say, well, hey, these are they're free pastors on Kingdom Connection. Well, they haven't said anything about the Bible. And, does the Bible speak to any of those? Of course, we have lots of examples in relation to what is happening and how the attractiveness of power can, and lots of examples. In fact, there's a perfect example, and I want to look at it in both aspects here. Jesus, as powerful as he was, okay, and I'm talking about just the dunamis, the dynamite aspect of him, not even just having authority here. Jesus, and when he spoke, the Bible says never a man, spoke like him. And but yet still, he did not just allow the power that, that he had to sort of motivate him to, to do what he did. In fact, Jesus, in the midst of all what he was doing, he also gave to his disciples. And it's the very same thing to what Pastor Jack was talking about, how he allowed you to do what you did, and by you doing what you did, he benefited and showed how much he was shining, in a sense. Jesus sent out his disciples, and they went out, and after they went out, he didn't care about whether they were going to come back and say that they cast out devils. In fact, they came back and said, what happened, and then he had to even rebuke them and say, hey guys, listen. And this is Pastor Ogi's paraphrasing it now, and say, guys, listen, do not just get deceived by the attractiveness of power. It is better to be ensured that your names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. In other words, there's something a little bit more than just people having to go through areas of deliverance and the sick getting healed. And there's something more to it than that. And then the other aspect is when we saw another person coming and trying to, he became so attracted to that quote unquote power, what he saw, and wanted to do it. And then the demons began to speak out and say, hey, okay, yeah, you're attracted to power, but what you don't understand is not power is something that doesn't stand on its own, because power is like a house built on one pillar. It's going to fall, so it needs some kind of foundation here. And that's what we're saying. And so the guy wanted to cast the demons, and guess what? And the demons say, you know what? I know some people here. I know that person over there. No, guess I know this other person, but who are you? The question here is we get to the place where we believe by standing or having a position that's going to keep us. Sooner or later, we begin to realize when that position is taken away from us and that pillar is gone, the house falls down.
Well, I believe that for me, I always tell people that God speaks to me at a level which I can understand. So I never compete in the intellectual capacity of anybody. For me, when I grew up and realized what power was, shockingly, it was like putting a grenade in the and I was 6-year-old. And for me, I become fearful. It's like they gave me the grenade first, and then tell me what it was. So now the same power that attracted you to the security is now causing your insecurity. It's causing fear. It's causing what if that blow in my hand? And that is where many people in power go wrong.
Now we will come to detail some of that, because you have used a comment here that I believe Paul describes very, very clearly in one of the epistles, when he says that you need to be careful of what kind of power you put in the hands of a novice.
Right.
Yes,
okay?
sir.
And there's a term that is used colloquially for that: boys with toys. Right now, I like to make reference to what people can understand. Okay. Years ago, when the Labour Party was looking for a leader, and the name Roosevelt Skerrit came, I never forget that somehow I had an interview with Kamala John Baptist on Kyrie FM. And I shared my thoughts with Kamala John Baptist, and some people got pretty angry with me. Some very good labor rights friend of mine got angry with me because they thought that Roosevelt Skerrit was the young man. And my view was that biblically, he's not suited. Okay. I still believe that that decision was correct from my perspective. He's not suited. He had not run, like Mike Douglas would say, at Tilolo, nowhere, little shop, nowhere. All he had was, he taught at the college, and he did not know how to run a house. Okay. And I take that from scripture. Okay. I believe if scripture is so very, very clear on the question of leading people in a little assembly, giving somebody to run a nation, if you don't know how to run a house, you're in trouble. And we saw, the boys with toys thing grow, and it has gotten worse because, and Paul said so, that will eventually get worse. Now, you people have heard me make that comment, and a few people have asked me about this. Why are you saying that? I said, because I perceive that there are many people who are looking to unseat Roosevelt Skerrit, both within his party and outside. Let me be bold to say that. And all they want is they see the attractiveness of power.
Yeah, the seat.
Right. So what they want is an exchange. Let me take out Mr. so I can do like him or better than him in terms of what he's doing. Not necessarily the question of being able to provide any high level of leadership for the country, which is what we require, right?
A high level leadership for yourself, for your life. It is unfortunate that we don't use these criteria for selecting leaders for our country. But we need to look at the personality of how much you can lead yourself. How much of a leader are you without the seat of power? And that's what you're going to bring inside, because that's what you came outside. I tell people many times when they said, oh, all politicians, they're thieves. And I said, the guy who steal 1 billion, a customer stealing sugar at his mother's house, is what
he perfected the art.
And power gives you the avenue to open up yourself to do more of whatever you are, to more of whatever you did.
Let's see who's on telephone. It's 4 minutes past 7 o'clock. Good evening. You are connected.
Good evening, Pastor Rodney. This is Dion George. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very, very well. How are you doing, Dr. George?
I'm well.
Dr. George.
And my mom and I, we are sitting here.
I was just about saying Dion George. I was just about saying Dion George for Margaret.
Yes, you say it like that. Dion George for Margaret. And I think that's the way you have to say it.
Yes.
Because that's the way it is.
That's the way I knew it before.
Just saying, I am just so impressed with the quality of you guys' program. And I see the camaraderie of how Pastor Jack can refer to Pastor Matthew, not as his secretary, but as one who actually assisted him. And the way that Pastor Matthew received it.
Actually, he was referring to me,
Pastor Randy.
Yes, but Pastor Randy, even the way Pastor Jack referred to you, that if you write a document, that you will just sign it. And I just thought to myself, see the humility among Christians.
Right.
Among Christians. And so I just wanted to give a little contribution to your program tonight, if I may.
Yes.
About the definition of power. Now, it might not be a Christian definition.
That's all right.
But in political science, they said that there are 4 areas of power. The first one is physical. If you're stronger than somebody, you can. It's called the ABC definition of power. You can make somebody do something, even if they disagree to. And you can force them to do it. And so if you're physically stronger, that's number one, whether it's through military or whether it's physical. The other one is manipulation. Like a woman can maybe betray or journey a man. The other one is sermons. What you are doing now is rationality, where you give a sermon, what a priest does or a pastor does on a Sunday. But you explain to the person, if you do A, B will be a result. And so you make a choice. So, and the last one, which is what is happening in Dominica now, is capital and investment, where you can tell someone, if you do that for me, I can pay you to do that. And so in political science, we have 4 general terms of what power is. But what Pastor Matthew did tonight, which I really want to give him some kudos for, he said there's a difference between power and leadership. And I think he mentioned the idea that leadership means the idea to get an idea and have someone follow you, not to command them to do it, but to let them see your global view, let them see what you're seeing, and that they'll. And I think this program is a very healthy program. I think you guys are all very humble. I think this is a Christian brothership in every sense of the word. And I just wanted to call and give my kudos. But I do have one little request. If you can find it in your heart to play this guy from Barbados. I forget his name, but he say only a rose can do. You know what I'm talking about?
Joseph Niles.
Just a rose.
Just a rose will do.
Just a rose will do.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
All right, no problems. I'll look into it according to Pierre Charles. Jack, here is the interesting thing here with regard to this subject, and that's why I said earlier on it's a subject that is interesting, intriguing, but one where you can have so many people getting angry with you,
Yes,
because it doesn't fit into a particular mold.
right.
Okay, when you talk about power and leadership and so on, and authority, here is where we are in the Caribbean region, and particularly in Dominica. And Dion, Dr. George just mentioned that capital and investment seem to be what we follow. Who have, we go with.
Yes.
Who is, and people tell you that, not even appreciating what is it they're saying. So it's why do I have to follow you? What can you do for me? Right? How much money can you give me? And the politicians in particular of the Caribbean have fooled the people,
Capitalize on
to make them feel that the largesse of the finance and the capital of the state belong to them, because these leaders have fooled themselves into, Matthew, the attractiveness of power, without paying any attention to regulation, SROs, and ethics and so on. As far as they're concerned, once I have the seat of power, then I will do what I want. So you hear leaders begin to talk about, I did that, and we have to, and I said to them they have to do that. And you ask yourself, who does he think he is? Right? And that is, so you have that on both sides. And so the person in the position is feeding with capital and investment the people who are following, and the people who are following is providing that kind of cushion to that kind of individual. Now, what I've seen, Matthew, what I've learned, or what I've read, is that the leaders often find themselves in what I refer to be a monkey pants, and the people whom they coerce with the capital investment can't help them. In fact, won't help them at the time. In fact, they wash their hands clean, right, and divide themselves from that, so that the attractiveness of power that you referred to is very deceptive, like Matthew
Very
said.
deceptive. That's the underlying word.
Very, very deceptive. But so many fall into that trap.
So when a leader
Yes.
is in a state of accomplishing power, a good leader who understands leadership or servant leadership, like you and I think the first time, I think the first lecture I did was with you, where it was, some country we were, and I'd never listened to I know people talk about servant power, but I've heard the academics of it. To somebody who was able to extract it from the pages of the Bible and make samples of Jesus's everyday life in servant leadership. Then after I learned that, then I started to hear about people like Monroe and John Maxwell and all those wells that when I went to classes, when I sat and listened to Miles Monroe in person, and sadness came to my heart that to plant flowers by the road, you might have to be qualified. To become a politician, you don't even have to know how to wipe your. I mean, you understand what I mean? And these men who are voted to lead our nation has not a single clue or understanding about power. And that's why I'm not flattering you. I have followed you from the time, I was placed in power. I know you. And I get to know you, know your family, know your children, know you very well as a person. We travel everywhere. And yet I have not found somebody with the understanding of these essential characteristics that qualify you to lead a nation. You have to have a certain level. I'm not saying your academics, which are bragging about if you have doctor. Who cares whether you can care boo or anything? I don't care what doctorate you are, because it is not a reflection of what I admire from you. The expertise of understanding position of power, authority. Who else have I ever, and Dominicans must, who else have I ever heard have an understanding? I'm not saying you are in the position to exercise it, execute it, but even hearing you tonight tells me you have an understanding of what power is all about, what leadership is all, what servant leadership, what is the difference between.
I want to draw a line tonight.
You understand, and that I am encouraging every listener tonight. We have upcoming doctors, nurses. Every time I hear one of my cousins or one of my relatives, close friends, join the police force, that is one of my greatest concerns, that they are going to a seat of power. Even you just have local concern. And I can remember once seeing one of my cousins who had just joined the police force after Maria. And he had what do you call that, M316 or whatever. And he was dressed in army fatigue. My heart just sank. I was coming into Roseau, and when I came in the barricade, they were putting a barricade somewhere. And at that entrance was he. And I was like, Lord have mercy.
You put a gun
in his hand. And was asking him to execute his power because he had the authority behind him. You see, so whether it's political, whether it's religious, we make that mistakes more in religious circles than anything. We mix up gifts for talents. We were calling for. One fella asked the fella, "Did you call God or God call you?" I mean, we get the whole thing mixed up. It's not that I'm not a respect for academics, but there need to be a level of training and understanding of these dangerous words, because it affects people's life. I would do a better job if I had a better understanding. The boo-boos and the mistakes that I made.
Matthew, let me hear you, and then I'm going to share something with you as far as that's concerned in the academics, for example.
Yeah, I want to come in there again, and thank you, Pastor Jack, for talking about academics here. I believe academics, does have its place.
Yeah.
And but let me just say this here, and I'm a bit saddened though by maybe something that Pastor Randy said earlier on, and he can always tell me a little bit more on what he was talking about, because he mentioned names and people that he looked to and read. I didn't hear much about recent leaders, especially from Dominica. I'd love to have heard and him say something in relation to that, but
there are a few leaders in Dominica that I listen to. And I can give you the names. Francis Everen. I pay particular attention to when Francis Everen speaks. I love listening to Ozzie Lewis. Simeon Joseph, I think, speaks with a certain level of clarity. It's not that, none of these guys, it's not that I agree with everything they say. But they articulate well. What's his name from Loda?
No, I talk about leaders.
People who I pay attention to.
I was talking about
political leaders.
Yes.
Current political leaders.
Yes.
Very few of them. Edison James, Lennox Clinton, I think, is a very, very wise guy. I don't believe there are very many like him in Dominica. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Edison James is very eloquent, very knowledgeable, and he speaks well. Lennox Linton is very, very perceptive. He has a mind that is good for analysis, and he presents his information excellently. There's no doubt about
He
that.
makes sense on his
That's correct.
points.
That's correct.
All
Now,
right.
now, if I may go to the side of the Dominican Labour Party, the only person I feel, quite frankly, who, when they speak and the speaking subject, who makes sense is Levi Peter. Once Levi Peter crossed into politics, then he makes a fool of himself. I mean, excuse me for using that strong word, but outside of that, when he's speaking and he's speaking from a perspective of essence and subject, he speaks all right. He speaks well. Outside of that, on the side of the Labour Party, off my head, I can't pick up anybody now because everybody seemed to be following the leader who, my goodness, quite frankly, is when he takes the podium, my wife will tell you, if he reads the prepared speech, is not bad. Although you can know when what he's going to say is not true because you can see it on his face. Something I learned from Tanya Ryman. When I look at Mr. Roosevelt's carrot and he knows what he's going to say, you will know that what he's going to say is not true based on what his face is going to tell you. Body language.
Yeah, you are taught that.
Although I know that, right? But when he goes off script,
I want to draw a line.
There's no end, there's no comma, there's no full stop, there's no start of a sentence. So you have that kind of thing. So to answer your concern about it, Matthew, that's what I would say now off the top of my head.
Right. But I want to draw a line, between the whole concept of power and leadership, in case people wondering, well, what are we talking about? Maybe we're just speaking. We're looking at something, I believe, like you said, which I am totally convinced of, is a critical subject, and one that many people do not want to talk about. And I think we need to draw that line, because power is motivated by energy. In other words, power is about energizing, and energizing is about people and circumstances that are empty and have very little to offer. So you can only really energize empty thing. It's like, when your battery is dead, it needs to be energized. A battery, no, leadership, on the other hand, is motivated in the direction to empowering, so that leadership is about empowerment, and empowerment is about ready people. So on one hand, we have empty people, and I want you to hear me well, Randy and Pastor Jack, tonight. On one hand, we have empty people. On the other hand, we have ready people. So when we're talking about power, we are talking about a position where individuals have positioned themselves to energizing empty people. When we talk about leadership, it is now a position of empowering ready people. Now, this is something that I want you to think about, but it is the truth. So people might say, well, boy, if leaders are not what they're supposed to be, why are they in position? Why are they doing so and so? Sometimes why are they in a position for so long? And the thing is, and you need to look at what is happening, because it would seem to me that many leaders who are bent, or who are simply in position, especially of power, they are not empowering, but in position of power, they remain in power by ensuring that people are energized. And of course, like I said, you can only energize empty people. No, it's important. So that's why a lot of the times what you find happening around the world, or, around the Caribbean, what you find is that a lot of people are bent on having a good time. So once they are fueled by energy, it's a CO here, it's a energy. The whole concept of having to make sense between what happens tomorrow or next year doesn't seem to be before them, and so it's a position that they've negated. On the other hand, if you are a person if you're a leader, and of course the concept here is leadership, you are in a position to empower people who are ready. And so we have a lot of people who possibly may be ready. They may have studied, may have learned, may have been the man or the woman for that specific position. They will not be placed in that position simply because they need to be empowered, but they will not be empowered because it is not leadership that's going to get them there. It is power that possibly may be in control. And that's the problem we have.
And is what type of power get them into leadership? Because when someone has power, it's basically the ability to get something done, to whether it's whatever it may be you are. But leadership is to influence us to do it. It's where it's more about influence than the ability. One of the people, when you recognize somebody in power, the word I is often used, as even in heaven with Lucifer. And when someone is in leadership, you always hear the word us and we. And they are about to see how many people can carry out the vision that they have. So they influence people to change. They influence people to do. They don't make people do anything, because by the virtue, and you know what, Jesus taught it very well. I was making an example yesterday to a group of men. I said, if you come to my house and you meet my wife sitting on my couch with her feet crossed, and then I just went across, I was making them a vision of my house, to my bar and bring her a cup of tea because she didn't coffee. And you came and you just saw that. You saw me bring her a cup of tea. And she said, thank you, dear. Thank you, darling. Thank you, Juju, whatever she want to call me. And she said, thank you. And she drink it. And you might look at me and you might change my name and bring me a capital M, but I said to them, let me tell you something. I am not there serving so much my wife as to leading my wife. Because go back in your Bible, Jesus took out his apron and washed his disciples' feet. But the instruction was, I just told my wife, if I, your husband, can go to the bar and make you a cup of coffee, is it difficult for you to make me a cup of coffee? Because we are the same. You see, so I am not doing a subservient service. I am leading. And if you want to be a good leader, I'm talking to men only yesterday. If you want to be a leader, say, see what I have done. I said, where did I get that? Not because I'm smart. They didn't show me that at SME. Always show me. Jesus had a better university. He said, let me tell you something. Peter said, not me. He said, okay, Peter, let me school you. If I, your master, can do that, you can do that to all the others.
But here's something that Matthew said, and I think it ties into what you're saying. Matthew, people who are into the execution of power, who, in your term, provide empty people with energy, that is short-lived. They provide them chemical energy, whichever way they use, whatever chemical they use, they provide them chemical energy that is short-lived. And those leaders, those power brokers, if I may put it that way, are deliberate in making sure that all you do is you energize them for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Right? Because if you energize them for that, if you influence them into becoming powerful, then you lose your power.
But you empower them, right? Exactly.
Right? If you energize them for that, then you are always empowered. Right. Because all you do is you energize them for that purpose. So their fire is lit and their fire dies until you energize them again. You throw some kerosene on them and their fire is lit and their fire dies. It is different from somebody empowering you.
Right.
Which is different. And that's what a leader does.
Right.
Okay. One of the things that I teach my church all the time is I believe my job is to lead them past me. Right. I want more masters. I want more doctorates. I want more whatever, anything that you can find. I want more business people who can be productive. I want people who can speak better than me. I want people who can do whatever. That's my job, is to take you from wherever you are and bring you to a place of excellence where I can sit back and say, yes, I.
Yeah, and sometimes take glory for what I have no. In your case, for what I had no responsibility for. If I am not threatened by your excellency because it gave me more time to go on a cruise. I mean, I'm honestly,
not just that. Not just that. When the people do well, you know how
it
good I
frees me
feel
up.
when my students turn around and I see they do very well. When you bring people to the place where they do well, what real leaders understand is that anybody you empower, you can't take the power from them.
Right.
But importantly, they always recognize you for empowering them.
Yes.
Which means that you are always in a better place. If you empower somebody and have them fall down, one of those days, that person is going to turn against you.
Exactly. Because you when you are aware, you see, I think a lot of it is ignorant. Jesus never compete for power because he knew he had it.
Jack,
and you know what he said?
One of the things,
greater things than I have done
will you do.
A great leader is not threatened by power.
One of the things that I learned from one of my leadership teachers, Dr. Samuel Chand, and Dr. Samuel Chand, for those of you who maybe that name doesn't ring a bell for you, he is the person who was commissioned to work on the Panama Canal, right? Very many years ago, to when it was a very small canal, to widen it so that bigger ships can go. Now I understand now that we have much bigger ships, and the last time I was in Costa Rica, I went across to Panama, and I understand that if you see that now, it's fascinating, but something else. Some of these big ships now are squeezing through the canal. I told myself, if I've done that before I spoke to Dr. Samuel Chand, I would have mentioned that. But he, you know what he said? He said he went down there and they brought them down there as a big guru. He's a big guru. He's an engineer. He's blah 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 blah, and he went down to Panama to work on enlarging this canal. And he said his first 2 weeks was to speak to the people on the ground. He didn't speak to the architect. He didn't speak to the artisans. He went down and he spoke to the machine operators. He spoke to the people who whatever, so he could know what was happening. And he said he learned so much that every time he went back to his room, he collected that information and he brought that thing together. He said at the end of 2 weeks, he had learned more than he had ever learned in a classroom, to now help him to go back there and influence the guys into how they should do this, right? And when I heard that, I had to buy the guys' books, because now that teaches you that really and truly all you need is the ability, the capacity to recognize the power in people and help them themselves recognize that, so they can be empowered to do the things that they were afraid to do, the things that they didn't think that they could do. Exactly. You provide them the leadership so that they can become. What we have now in modern leadership is Matthew said, give me a CEO, let me feel nice, so I can do that for you. And then tomorrow, give me a CEO again so I can do that. And give me a ganja.
But I understand you can be sympathetic toward the people around us. That it's a misunderstanding that power means leadership. Once you have power, you are a leader.
Right.
No, because one of the things that people who are in power must recognize is the question of authority. And when people in question do not give themselves boundaries, their power, having power, is dangerous to the people around them, to people the influence, because they have no boundaries. One of the things that power has to is almost like having a rein in a donkey, in a horse's mouth. That the question of accountability, the question of authenticity, the question of ethics, the question of morals. There are so many to exercise real power. and to reflect the power in the Bible. There are a lot more ingredients and aspects of the power, but loose power, just the ability and the capacity to perform and to do, to execute, very dangerous tool. And that is what we have in the Commonwealth of Dominica, putting power in the hands of people who do not understand anything about leadership. Because number one, I know that we being biblically based, leadership in the Bible is not the popular one that is taught. But the leadership in the Bible works for any organization, in the family, in politics, in any grouping that you apply the quality of leadership that is taught by Jesus Christ, even though you don't like him. But it will work for you.
You know,
Pastor
Randy and Pastor Jack, one of the things that we can say, in fact, one of the main lessons in relation to the whole concept of leadership that we saw in Jesus, I know Pastor Jack alluded to servanthood. We saw that, I mean, the whole book of Mark is really centered on servanthood. But however, one of these important statements that we need to make here this evening, so people understand exactly what we're saying, is that Jesus never taught his disciples that they needed positional authority, or what we call power, to cast out demons, to see the sick recovered, or even to see the community changed. They did not need positional authority or power. They needed delegated authority, but not positional authority, which is power. In fact, and that's the difference here. To a lot of people, like Pastor Jack talked about, you don't need to have a title to be able to serve an individual that is dying or that's broken. But
Matthew, I want us to expand that in just a moment. I'm going to take a break to do something that I promised my friend, Dr. Dion George.
Right.
But I wanted to think of that vis-a-vis the fact that so many of us pastors have sorcerized opposition, if there's a word like that, to make people think that it's only we that have the potion, and they must come to us to get that done. And if they don't come to us, then nothing is happening. I want to talk about that in a while, because that falls smack bang into the whole question of this power and authority. I want to play that for Dr. Dion George and your mother, Margaret. A very good night to both of you. Jonas.
When time shall come for my leaving, and I shall be don't spend your money.
I don't like that version. It seems a little low. Let's try this one.
When time shall come for my leaving, and I shall be don't spend your money on flowers, just a rose. Just to have my old-fashioned preacher preach a sermon so true. I need no beautiful flowers, just a rose with is you. Your souls will I need no organization, just to make what to do. I need no bright decorations, just a rose.
That was just for Dr. Dion George and his mother Margaret. Just a rose will do. Don't spend your money for flowers. Just a rose will do. Matthew and Jack, I want to go back to this because I have mentioned that before in other fora, and it's coming up here under that subject. And I think that, we are pastors. And one of the things that we do is we present the people with honest information, right, Jack? And sometimes even when it's us that's wrong, we have to say, through my fault, through my most grievous fault, and take responsibility for what we do. And I want to repeat that, and I want to hear your comments, that very often we have sorcerized the opposition. We have made it the magic wand or the magic potion, whichever way you want to put it, that unless people come to us, to our office, we have to lay hands on them, blah, blah, blah. They can't pray, they can't do this, they can't do anything. Let us put that into the subject of the power and authority that we're talking about. Jack.
Yeah, we must not, or we have, and in some way, out of ignorance, and we should never maliciously or in a way to manipulate people to give us worship or allegiance for what we can do for them and how we can help them. It is often better, and maybe I'm one of the lazy ones, to let people help themselves. Because if you teach somebody to pray or to art of deliverance, they don't have to bother in your bed. Because I often saw it from that angle that whatever I teach you to do, you don't have to trouble me to help you do it. I'm never threatened. Maybe I'm overconfident. I'm never threatened by anybody who can do whatever I can do. And I want you to do it better because you will help me. You will give me an ease. So when we have made ourselves as the source of healing, re-healing people, Casa, you cannot heal nobody. Tell the people that. Doctors don't heal people. Doctors medicate people and God does the healing. What the mechanism of the medicine reaching the infected or the sick part is not in the hand of the medical expert. It's in the hand of somebody greater than you and I. So even how a baby is formed in the womb, yes, a man may get a woman pregnant, but the formation of that fetus to become a baby is not in the hand of another man. So when we take the power for ourselves, I like the scripture says, if we lift him up, he will draw all men unto him. If we let praise be praised, if God is praised in our assembly, if God is worshiped, if all power is accredited to God, we will see greater manifestation of his almighty power. We don't, ours are limited. So why, and his glory he shares with nobody. So let us not even try to take some, because it makes us look, I like the word, I don't know where you get it. It makes us look more like sorcerers than men of God.
Matthew. You're muted, Matthew. You're muted, Matthew.
Right. Yes. I guess I'm unmuted now.
You are loud and clear. Hold
Right.
on, Matthew. Let me just see who's on that line, and then I'll come back to you. Good evening. You are connected on the telephone.
Good evening, Pastor Ronnie and your team.
Good evening.
Yes.
Pastor Ronnie, very good discussion in terms of leadership. And I think if we as a people understood the responsibility we pass on to our political leaders, who are have the highest responsibility for leadership in our country, because they determine what happened to each and every one of us when they hold office. By first providing leadership for a team of civil servants and other advisors that work for the people. And that's why it's critical for people to think very deep. And as is a religious program you have, and pray to get God guidance
Amen.
in selecting the leaders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because as you said, leaders lead and prepare followers to take over leadership. And unless you can get that consistent transfer of leadership power, then you are stagnant or falling apart. So I'm very happy that you guys are discussing the topic, and in the weeks coming, we will be able to get more information to the people on terms of their role in determining what they should be looking for when they select a leader. Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We will keep teaching that subject, and that's what we do, right, Jack and Matthew?
Yeah.
Yes.
Matthew, let me get right back to you, although my lines are going. Let me hear your point, Matthew, and then we'll take the calls.
You want to take the calls and I'll come back? That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the telephone, good evening. You are connected.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen. My pastors and them, good evening to you.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yes.
Very interesting topic. I heard one pastor said that no doctor can cure, and I totally agree with that. Your mindset can either make you or your mindset can either break you. Can you imagine you stick on a bed and sometimes it could just be something normal like gas, and your mind is telling you, oh, it's cancer, and you are killing yourself slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind is just telling you, sometimes it's not cancer at all, but the way you feel, you are telling yourself that you have cancer and you're just killing yourself. So your mind can either cure you or your mind can either break you.
Yes.
So it's the mindset. I agree with that. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Back on the telephone. Good evening. You are connected.
Hello, gentlemen. This is a friend, my good old friend. I'm happy to be on the line with you guys, and I'm just so excited about the topic that you all are discussing tonight on leadership and power. In fact, you guys should know me by now that this is my bread and butter. Right?
I should have make sure that you know what? The next time we continue that conversation, I'm going to make sure that you are on with us, because that is your expertise, your academic qualification is right there, right?
That's correct. And I just could not help myself. I don't often call the show, although I listen all the time. I think I want to commend you, gentlemen, for doing a fantastic job of high quality. Very, very impacting, not only for those of us scholars, but even the layperson can understand the difference between leadership, proper leadership, and the abuse of power based on title. It just reminds me of one of the areas of expertise, that I teach from, and that is John Maxwell's 5 levels. And honestly, most of the people who are positioned, even a police officer, he is installed as an officer. He's clad, uniformed in such a way that once you see him, you will follow him because you have to. If he says jump, you have to jump. In most cases, right? That's positional power, right? Or positional leadership. But we need to elevate from that stage to a higher level and a higher level and a higher level. And when I talk about higher levels, I'm talking about like commission. People follow you because
uh, you give them permission to follow you by the relationship that you form with them. So people, if we elevate from the positional power, oh, I am this, I'm installed as your manager, I'm installed as your supervisor, and for some of us that means power. That just means what I say goes. Well, I need a paycheck. I'm going to follow. Yeah, I'm going to follow your commands because I have to feed my family. But at the end of the day, how am I feeling? Am I feeling replenished, or am I feeling depleted? As a leader, are you empowering people, or are you drawing from them, making withdrawals from them? So when you talk about elevating from the positional power, we need to learn to elevate beyond that and go to like relationship power or leadership. Then the people will also follow you on a higher level if you adopt what you call results leadership, where people follow you because of what you have done for the church or for the organization or for the community or for the community as well, for the country. People want to follow you because they feel that you care about their soul, their being, their humanity, and that's level 3. Then you go on to maybe what you call people development. Pastor Randy, you specifically mentioned a while ago that people follow you because of what you have done for them. You know, when people feel that if you incorporate Maslow's laws, where people after they have met their basic physical needs, they grow to other needs of belonging, needs of self-actualization. You want to get a degree, you want to elevate to another certificate because your house is covered, you have food on your table, but that's not enough. You want to rise beyond that. And going back to the leadership levels, you are producing people, you help them to develop. And so people love to follow you because they are being fed, their souls are fed, because our souls can die even if our bellies are full. You know, so then you when you have done all of these for people, it's all about people, it's all about the servant leadership. When you have done all that, you can rest. People follow you because of who you are and what you represent. That's the pinnacle level. You have arrived at a level where when somebody sees you walking down the street, you don't have to say anything. You command respect because people have looked at you and know who you represent and what you represent. So I must tell you that I am just enjoying this. I want to add one more thing before I leave. One of the things that when I teach leadership, I emphasize in today's day is the demarcation we must make between character ethics and personality ethics. You see, while personality ethic is what everybody seems to be drawing to right now, it's all about focusing on techniques to win people on your side, techniques to make people follow you, techniques to show how you look good, what image that you present to the public, how to speak well, how to make even preaching, how to preach a good sermon. You can pick up notes. People are selling sermons nowadays. But rather than the other ethics which we need to concentrate on, which is character ethics. And the underlying principle of character ethics is the things that our grandparents or parents have taught us that is so quickly going away from our society today. Things like honesty, things like morality, things like respect, things like ethics, and even values. Let me be careful. When I say values, we have to make sure when we talk about values, we know what we're talking about, because every radical gang has a value system.
Yeah.
Every grouping has a value system. Hitler had a value system, but the only thing his value system was not based on principle. So when we talk about values, we must make sure that our values are based on the core principles of humanity. And so if we would go back to more character ethics and stop accentuating personality ethics, how you look, what image. Let's concentrate on, you see personality ethics, and I'll end by saying this. It more or less accentuates how to appear to be, whereas character ethics concentrate on how to be.
Mhm.
So how to appear to be could be temporary. Oh man, I'm going to go for elections and I'm going to go around the villages and touch everybody that and kiss every baby that I see on the street and give a hug to all the old people. But is that really you? Is that really you? Who are you inside? And that to me is the thing that will carry us across character ethics versus personality ethics. I have much more I could say, but brothers, I think I just want to commend. This show is very impacting. It's very fulfilling to us. So keep it up, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm so happy you called. I'm sure Jack is smiling all the way inside that you called. Let me take one more call here. It's already 8 minutes, moving up to 8 o'clock in the evening. You are connected. Good evening.
Pleasant good evening to you, gentlemen.
Yes, good evening.
Mikey, you were missed, man.
No. I'm right there. I'm listening to you.
I will be brief. You see, from a leadership point of view, a leadership normally have followers. And when the followers go condoning the wrongdoing of the leader, this is one of the things that we need to put in perspective as well. Because when I am the leader, I am doing things that is wrong. Yet still, society and everything encourage me. What message does that send? And I say so to say, when you do wrong, you make mistakes. You know when you make a mistake, there is a good thing about that mistake, and there is a bad thing about the mistake. When you make a mistake, you'll be disappointed at the same time you're making the mistake. But the good thing about it, you can learn from your mistake.
Mm-hmm.
That is just natural common sense. Everybody, you fixing a vehicle, you doing something, you make a mistake. I did that way, and that is the way I should not have done that.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn from your mistake.
Very good.
We just not learning from our mistakes. I don't know what happened to human being, and that is one of the things we need to put in perspective there. And we'll have a discussion. You guys will have supposed to take that note and have a discussion on that. Learning from mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good evening, because much more to be said, but we have to cut short. Time is available.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, Matthew, back at you, and then I'll get to Jack. It's already 8 minutes moving up to 8 o'clock, like I said. And time is swiftly passing by when you're having a good time. Let me hear you, Matthew.
I'm telling you, and you're so right. And I'm happy for the discussion that we're having, even for those who have called and spoken. Randy, again, Pastor Jack, this is very, very important to us. You know, positional authority, power. I love what the brother said when he gave the difference between the whole concept of the personality ethics versus the character ethics, which is interesting for us in understanding where we are. And I say to people all the time, you know, it's so easy when you think about it. Really and truly, I don't have to be in a position to be able to do what must be done. But for some people, if you're motivated by power, you see position as your end result, and nothing else makes sense. In fact, at the end of it all, it doesn't matter what people say or do. That's exactly where you are. But people who have learned, you know, the whole concept of leadership, you know, they understand, you know, that empowerment is giving away. Okay, it is giving away power, whereas management, or you know, or that power, as we are talking about, is holding on to power and control. Once you have gotten to that place of empowering other people, you get to the place where you begin to realize, you know what, that you have yourself attained to certain self-development, and you will not be threatened by the reins of power of someone else. Now, that's a major problem that we're having, because what we're seeing is that people possibly may not have been self-developed, but they have gotten to the place where they are not willing.
Matthew, you accidentally mute yourself for the last sentence.
Okay, I'm not sure what you heard, but I was talking about people who have not gotten to that place where they're willing to release power. In other words, they have not gotten to the place where they're ready to empower other people. They are now in a position where they are threatened by other people who are possibly desiring or could do a great job as it relates to a position of authority. And that we need to be very, very careful of, because in the end result, what you're going to have is we're developing a bunch of people who are just energized, but they are not empowered. And that's my fear. And when I say this in a very passionate way, because I understand the detriment of a society or a nation where you have people who are filled with energy, but they are not empowered. That's right.
Jack.
I will end as I began this evening to sound a note of warning to those who are attracted to power. And you need to be very, very careful. Be well advised. And surround yourself with people that can give you good guidance. When you're attracted to any, could be as a chairman or any place that would dictate power, that you would go into be in a powerful position as a doctor or as a teacher, and be well advised, because one, power may be attractive, but it's also addictive. If you badly execute power, it can take away the quality of life that you live. You will look at that other man on the street who's much happier than you, contented than you, and can sleep better, because power in itself can destroy you. Good evening.
It's amazing that you say that, Pastor Jack, because you set my mind to think, and probably got some answers as well this evening. I now understand why I don't mind giving you my position. I don't mind giving anybody my position at any time. You can have it if you want it, please.
Yes, sir.
And it does not change who I am. And that's one of the things that I'd really like to pass on. There's a verse of scripture, Matthew, that I will read tonight, and hopefully we will come back and talk about that the next time we come back, and it's in Judges chapter 5 and verse number 2. And I'm going to read it from the New King James Version deliberately. So in fact, let me read verse 1 and verse 2 so people get the sense of it. The Bible says in verse 1 of Judges chapter 5, then Deborah and Barak, the son of Abinoam, sang on that day, saying, when leaders lead in Israel, the people willingly offer themselves. Bless the Lord.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
That I think is a great verse of scripture to end our program this evening. When leaders lead in Israel, the people willingly offer themselves. Bless the Lord. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of another 12 duty here on Kingdom Connection for tonight, April 15th. We're so happy that you were with us, and I'm so excited that Dr. Kevin Laura joined us tonight. Like I said, that's his specialty, that's his academic prowess, and I'm going to ensure on Monday evening that we get him connected on so he can share some of that information with us as we share on the whole question of leadership and power and authority. That's so important for us to share on. My name is Randy. Tonight we had with me Pastor Jack and Matthew, who is somewhere on a very important assignment, rescuing assignment. Jack told me. It's Jack who told me it's a rescuing assignment. So I believe Jack. I trust Jack's judgment as well. And one of those days he'll be back with us again in studio. Until then, I'll be back with you on Wednesday morning for Rise and Shine. Pastor Cosmos John will be here tomorrow night, and we'll be back, God willing, next Monday for another Kingdom Connection. Have a good evening, and see you next time. God bless you now, and may heaven smile on you.
We hang our heads in shame. We ask who's to blame. For this morass of moral decay, leadership gone through, the policing askew, and the talking heads will have a field day. But tell me, what are our social values? And tell me, how do we judge success? By a man's car, his clothes and his shoes. Man, that is how we measure progress. I see the building skyscraper, things of stone and steel, hoarding stacks of blue paper. Things that men can steal, but no one takes the time, no time to build character. No, we're taking time, no time building character, and that is we don't call. Empires of old with their silver and gold. Now mere footnotes on a history page. The Colosseums of Rome with all their columns and domes are memories of a bygone age. Listen, the Greeks and Romans at their orgies, days and nights cavorting in lust. But soon to plates of locusts